So let's get started. We got all kinds of things to talk about this afternoon. You're looking at some scenes from the eastern seaboard, Pine Knoll Shores in North Carolina, Atlantic City, both spots facing some of the hazards we were just talking about. Let's bring in Fox Weather hurricane specialist Bryan Norcross. Bryan is on double duty today, talking about tropical things and things that we don't think will develop tropical characteristics, but may be influenced by other things. So, Bryan, what are your thoughts moving through the next several days on this coastal storm getting rolling?
Well, you know, I have this rule with tropical forecasting that systems that are just developing or undeveloped, the forecasts for them are always subject to change. And this storm hasn't developed yet. So what we're going to talk about is subject to change, but there is a general consensus in the computer forecast. So let's start with where we are right now. And here, look, you can clearly see the front that has brought the cooler air down to this whole part of the country here, the real fall feel. Also, look at the push of air from the north. This is strong high pressure behind that front, and that's going to be almost equally responsible with the developing storm for the strong winds that are forecast. South of the front, here over Florida, it's still summertime, thunderstormy, very humid kind of weather. So there is a change coming here. So those are the ingredients that we have, plus this dip in the jet stream that's going to form here that is putting a twist in the atmosphere, and that's going to give the energy for a coastal storm developing out here. So let's skip ahead to Saturday morning. The wind is going to blow here. In fact, it's already blowing along the coast here, and we can see that actually Saturday morning it's really going because we have not just high pressure to the north, but we have the low pressure that's developing off Florida. All right, not terribly strong, but here you can see the moisture being pushed in over the Carolinas, and we're starting to see now the winds blowing onshore along the Outer Banks. This is mostly an easterly wind at this point, and up and down here in Florida you get these northeasterly winds. So it's a nor'easter because the worst winds are from the northeast. Once this thing gets going, you'll see how that's going to work out. So that's where we are Saturday morning. There's where the front is. Part of Florida is getting the cool air at this point. Now watch as we go. This is where the winds are here. Notice we have winds coming in just getting to the Outer Banks here from the east. So the southern part of the Outer Banks will kind of get it first. Remember, this is a circulation like this. And then we also have winds here. So these winds up here are related to the high pressure. These here are related to the storm. So these are the stronger winds. Notice they're up gusting 30, 40, even in the reds, up to 50 miles an hour, and the storm is just getting going. So that's where we are Saturday morning. All right, let's go to Saturday evening now. And here you can see more winds along the coast, depending on exactly from the northeast. That's where they're going to be strongest. And then here they're blowing offshore. And notice additional wind north of the front, stronger winds north of the front. This is going to be pushing in to the north part and really along the Outer Banks, also Pamlico Sound and the other sounds there, also Chesapeake Bay. Now this water is getting jammed into Chesapeake Bay, so significant flooding in the lower bay forecast beginning late Saturday. Then Sunday, the storm really gathers. Notice we have more, even stronger winds here. Now we're up gusting the 50 to 60 mile per hour range offshore, probably in the 40 to 50 mile an hour range right onshore. Winds coming around, notice, from the northeast. That's when we get the strongest winds with a nor'easter. So really picking up from about the tidewater, but north up to the Jersey Shore and even the very southern part of New England. This is on Sunday. And then Sunday into Monday are the big days in the northeast as this storm cranks up here, and you get these very strong winds here. Jersey Shore into Long Island Sound, just south of Connecticut, Rhode Island, and then also in New England, Boston Harbor and the Outer Cape and the islands, all being blasted here by east and northeast winds, and that's on Sunday. Then Monday, still strong winds up here, but not as strong as it backs off, and now a lot of them become offshore, except not in New England. And notice then we have the question of what about this storm? Also, I should make it, this is Tuesday, right? So Tuesday, we're still getting northeast winds here along the northern part of Cape Hatteras. So a lot going on up and down the coast, and it doesn't quit. It goes on for days, and then for Cape Hatteras, it comes back. So there's where the storm is left. It's got this little piece of a front maybe left. The question is, does that go away? Is it sitting over the warm water long enough that it can become enough tropical to get a name? That's a maybe. It wouldn't happen until next week, and it wouldn't affect all the bad weather along the coast. In any case, it's more a novelty than anything else. All right, so we have coastal flood warnings and advisories all the way from central Florida all the way up to, of course, you know about Cape Hatteras, also in the Sounds. And then already coastal flood watches, just kind of warning about the fact that the storm surge could be 3 feet above the normal high tide, and that's going to flood a lot of areas along the Jersey Shore, also in the bays and the inlets and so forth. Very, very dangerous conditions, all the way from north of Boston on down to all the way down to Florida, as you know. All right, so let me take a look at the rain, which is another factor here. And here, look at this. This is where the heaviest rain is going to be. Now, we don't expect flooding rains here because it's kind of been drought conditions, so the land is pretty dry. But look at this, 3 to 5 inches of rain. So some urban flooding is possible with this kind of rain. Okay, let's go down to the tropics, the real tropics, sort of, even though this is a weirdo storm. All right, here's Jerry with 65-mile-an-hour winds, even though it doesn't look like it, 1,000 millibars. But hurricane hunters have been working hard to really check this out. Here you see the center is right about in there. Here are the islands, and then but the hurricane hunters have found the strongest winds out in here. So the strongest winds are on the other side from the islands. There's the radar, and there's where the National Hurricane Center puts the center. And you see it's all on the other side, just some showers here on this backside over the islands. So good news there. There's where the analysis is, the tropical storm force winds. So you see just offshore of Antigua and Barbuda, and maybe they get brushed with tropical storm force gusts, but just not much on that left side of the storm. Looking forward, that storm goes north and it misses Bermuda, becomes a hurricane for a while, but anyway, not a factor. And we do have this thing way up here that has a 10% chance of becoming some kind of a named system. But anyway, it's way up there over cold water. It won't last very long, even if it does. One of those sort of flash in a pan things, and only a 10% chance of that. Ian?
Yeah, Bryan, looking at this thing, I don't know that it looks any healthier today as compared to yesterday, but it's moving into that zone where we've seen what? 4 hurricanes move over already. All had a very successful period of intensification in that spot north of the islands.
Yeah, it's that part of the ocean, but and the Hurricane Center calls for it to become a hurricane. But good thing is that this one is going to turn east way before Bermuda, and that's because of the big storm on the East Coast. That is such an intense entity that it's going to deflect anything away from the East Coast of the U.S.
Yeah, so it's a good news, bad news scenario with that, and
Right.
You got us updated on both of those things. So that's Fox Weather Hurricane Specialist Bryan Norcross. Bryan, thank you.